My name is Hannah Rasmussen, and just a little bit about me. I grew up in Tanzania and in Nairobi, so ninazungumza Kiswahili pia. And I'll get to introduce more as we go along. I'm very grateful to Kenyan Register for inviting me today. Today our topic is essential elements of non-fiction book introductions. And when I say the word introductions, we know that word is used in a different way also in Kenya. Maybe, I don't know if you are imagining in future, you want to marry someone, and you have to go for introductions, isn't it? So normally if you're the one who's going to negotiate your dowry at this introduction, you'll be very nervous, right? Because in that room somebody is deciding whether or not you get to continue relating with this fiancé of yours. Either you will have a relationship or it will be finished, right? Introductions are very important. And they tell you whether or not you can continue that relationship. And the same is true for an introduction of a non-fiction book. The introduction is where the reader decides if they want to continue the relationship with you. And it's also somehow whether they decide, are they going to pay for this book or not? In the same way like a dowry. So I think we can use that example to make us think about how will you feel when you're going for that introduction. It's a very risky, high stakes introduction. It matters. It's like dramatically different. If you do well, if they like you, it's awesome. If not, it's devastating. That's how important a book introduction is. If your reader likes your introduction, they'll buy the book. Probably they can get a little bit of a preview, either by flipping through in the bookstore or online, they may get a little bit of a preview. But if they want to get the whole book, they'll have to pay. And that's what they're deciding. How much is this worth to them? So, today we're focusing on nonfiction book introductions. Most of my examples will be from that. And what I mean by introduction is the first chapter of a book, even if it doesn't have the title Introductions. But, and I'll be sharing the 5 essential elements of any nonfiction book introduction. But it's relevant to all of you. All of you who are writing, all of you who hope to say something in the future to anyone about something that you care about. Because these skills are a formula for introducing anything in life. You can use it for a book or an article. You can use it for a presentation. You can use it for a proposal to see if your book can be published. You can use it for a presentation in your job. And actually, I'm using that same formula right now for this presentation. So you get to discuss it and see if it was helpful or not. Once you learn this formula, you can capture people's attention with whatever it is when you have something to say. Probably you're wondering why you're listening to this young Zungu lady and what she could have to tell you. So just a little bit more of my own introduction. I studied English for my bachelor's at a school with a very nice English department. In fact, one of my professors won the Man Booker Prize, which is the UK's best novel prize. And another one won the International Human Rights Book Award. So English was not an easy degree at that school. I also studied sociology there. I applied what I learned to write my own book called Good News About Gender, a Bible study for young adults, which is nonfiction, and also several published articles. And now I work as an acquisitions editor for Oasis International Limited, which is a publisher of Christian books by African authors about topics relevant to our lives, mostly also nonfiction. So I've had an opportunity to coach many authors through writing their introduction at my work, and I want to share those tips for free with you. So I hope that you will enjoy this session. My acquisitions editing, just in case that was an unfamiliar term for you, means I find authors and coach them on the writing process. So it's not only the copy editing and those spelling and grammar, it's actually a very conceptual level kind of editing. So normally I get to talk with people about big picture ideas as well. And if you have more questions about other things in that writing process, we can have them at some point. So what should we expect in this session? Different people came with their different expectations. And I'll just give you an idea of how we're going to approach this. I said there are 5 essential elements to every book introduction, so of course we'll cover the 5. And the first way we're going to cover it is by looking at the example I've just given, through how I used those 5 elements. The next way, we'll do an example together. We'll have some time for questions, and then the goal will be for you to be able to implement this yourselves. Maybe if we have time, you can do it with a partner, or else you can do it at home. And write a stunning introduction to whatever you want to create. It's good to meet you. For those who didn't hear, my name is Hannah. And let's begin now, looking at the first essential element of a nonfiction book introduction. Is a hook. I thought you might like some color in your day. So, you noticed my book was about another kind of introduction we do in Kenya called meeting the family, right? We talked about the pressure that you get when you meet your in-laws for the first time, or your future in-laws, or hopefully, and how introductions in the same way for books are about your relationship with the reader and whether they will continue that relationship or not, and how much they're going to pay for whatever it is you have to offer. So I could have started the way that most nonfiction books start. Anyone know how most nonfiction books start? The Oxford Dictionary defines introduction. Start with a hook. Start with something interesting that will grab their attention. What did the hook, probably mine wasn't the best example, but what did that accomplish? Something that is captures your attention, something that is relatable. In education, they talk about going from the known to the unknown. Or another way of saying is start where people are. I thought probably this group may have a lot of young people. If I give an example of meeting your in-laws, it could be somehow relatable. If I was in the US, I would not give an example of introduction to your in-laws because it wouldn't be relevant to that culture. So start where people are, start with something that they know, and then eventually you'll be teaching them new things as they go on to read the book. The other great thing about that example is it's emotive. It immediately when you start thinking introduction to the in-laws, your reader's emotions get engaged. So they start to feel something, and that connects them with your book, rather than just a mind connection like a definition. So 3 things that make a good hook would be emotive, relatable, and also, of course, interesting. We mentioned that. But also make it relevant to the subject matter. I used that example of introductions because I said, in the same way your book introduction will determine whether or not you have a continuing relationship with your reader. Now, if I had done a random thing, I had showed a funny cat video, it may be interesting, it may be emotive, but it has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. At least make it relevant. Don't confuse your reader by the kind of hook that you're giving. One other mistake that a lot of people make is calling their introductions introduction. It could be that your discipline requires that, and that's okay. But if you're writing a fiction book, or if you're writing a more popular level, a non-fiction book, please avoid it. People often skip that. They often skip some things called preface and forward as well. They think this is boring. The word introduction doesn't tell me anything about what is going to be in that chapter. You could start with something like the main argument that your book is going to be about. For example, the divorce problem in Kenya, or whatever it is. That may not even be as exciting, but at least it's better than introduction. Sometimes your title is the only thing you get as a hook. If you're writing a newspaper article, or those social media posts like on BuzzFeed, you notice their title is actually a hook. It's supposed to be capturing your interest. In some places, it's appropriate to put the title of your whole piece as the hook itself. The point is that when you have the reader's attention for such a short time, just looking at that first chapter title or the title of your article, make it interesting. I was reading Tsitsi Damkaremba's book, the title escapes me, Nervous Conditions. And her first line is quite famous because she says something like, "I was happy the day my brother died." It's very shocking. It's very shocking because first of all, you're like, what? How can she be happy? Then you're like, what, her brother died? Wait, why did her brother die? You have all these questions, but it's emotional, and it's interesting, and it's relatable, because it's a human experience that anyone can connect to.